Hey, this is Gecko Mayhem. This is another Godforge video. I'm going to watch a video that the Fateless team just released. It's, of course, Simon from Fateless. I'm guessing it is most of the time, if not 100% of the time. I'm going to watch the video for the first time and give my reaction. It is called Confuse Your Enemies, Boost Your Ultimates. Let's watch and see what this is all about. My guess is buffs and debuffs.
Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless. Today we're going to be talking about Godforge. We're going to be talking about stats, buffs, debuffs, and disables. Just in the lead up to that, I just want to say we are well on the way to having the alpha ready. It's going to drop in July, as I've said. We don't know the exact date yet. We're working on our dev plan, our roadmap. There's a certain number of screens that we want to be absolutely polished and functioning,
of course,
and bug-free for you guys, or as bug-free as they can be. So it looks like it's going to be a bit later in July, but we will give you all of that information as and when we know exact dates.
Of course.
By the way, we now have an official Godforge YouTube channel. You can come and sub to this channel. It's going to have all of the official things for Godforge. So things like our announced trailer, things like patch notes when we're live as a game. We've also got the official music on here as well. So whilst I'm outside of game, I'm just going to throw on our playlist. So we've got the Godforge theme, but also a lot of the different themes for the game in here as well. You can come and check them out as you want to. You can see though, on a PC, on a Mac, on Android, we've got, well, certainly PC and Mac, we've got our own launcher, and on Android, we're able to play the game on a daily basis, doing daily testing and refinement. So all of that stuff is happening. Yeah, and honestly, it's super cool. So you can see here, I'm logging in on PC through our launcher, and everything is going well. So for Alpha, you would have received an email if you'd signed up to fateless.gg. The previous, what we'd called a beta test, is basically being, all of those players are basically being thrown into the Alpha. You would have had an email over the last 2 weeks that basically said, you are in to the Godforge Alpha, and you will get more information in the coming weeks. That's still accurate, by the way. If you've not found that email, and we sent an email out to 45,000 people, we've seen around 25,000 people open the email. So there's about 20,000 people that probably think they haven't had an email. It might be sitting in your junk email or your spam. Just search for Godforge Alpha in your spam, in the email that you signed up with, and hopefully you'll find it there. If not, go back to fateless.gg and try signing up again, and just make sure the email is actually included in the database for when we do our alpha. So you can see here that the Godforge build is working. I'm able to get into the game. Basically what we're doing right now is we're locking out any screens which are not alpha relevant. Of course. And we're just making sure that all of those screens are finished and polished up and that type of stuff. So all of this is being worked on. We've got the caverns in kind of like full flow, and they're working with sort of different challenges that we're going to be putting in for different stars. All of that's work in progress.
It is,
and different kind of like reward drops are existing in the different stages that we can work through. So
you can get
all
the rewards,
of this is kind of functional. Things like energy and those type of resources all function and are accurate. So we're working our way through screen by screen, but we want to make sure that we get the alpha in a really, really great place for you guys, so that it feels good and you get a true representation of what we want you to experience with the game. So that when we're getting feedback, it's not just kind of like, oh, this feels sluggish. It's actually really interesting feedback that we can work on. But in this video, I just want to try and tee you guys up for different areas of the game. So things like the stats, what do they mean?
What do the
things
stats
like
mean?
buffs, debuffs, and disables, what do they mean? So if I take Mordred here, we have 3 types of main kind of like core, I guess, actives or supporting ability types. So anything written in red within an ability is going to be a debuff.
A debuff. Okay,
so anything red is a debuff. You can see this one is corrupt. We're going to go into what they all mean in a second.
Cool.
And this is on his basic ability. Every hero has a basic, a core, an ultimate, and then a passive ability. So his basic here has got a debuff on it. His core has actually got a buff on it, which is blue. And then it's also got a disable on it, which is this purple color.
Nice.
Okay, so in this particular one, we got a confuse as a disable. And again, I'll tell you what that means in a second.
I can
So let's quickly talk about how you can gain an ultimate ability. So you start with 0 divinity in this case, and you need 1,000 divinity to get your ultimate ready. One of the things we can play around with in our alpha testing is giving different heroes a starting divinity number closer to 1,000, and also this way to gain divinity.
Yeah.
So in this particular example here with Anubis, he's going to gain 200 divinity whenever an enemy is defeated. Okay, so it could be someone else in your team that defeats an enemy. He's going to gain 200 divinity for doing that. Double this bonus if the enemy is aligned with order. So if you look at the info here,
he's chaos.
Some of the team are chaos and some of the team are order. So you'll be able to basically set up teams to try and push someone like Anubis to gain his ult faster. So yeah, one of the things we're doing in terms of our testing right now is playing around with that starting divinity number, but also playing around with the way to gain more divinity. But we've also got stats, okay? So some stats are super obvious. You've got HP, attack, and defense. Hopefully these are all obvious. Just about everybody will have a damage increase by their attack. So attack never becomes a stat that means nothing. Certain
that's good.
Types of heroes, like brawlers, for example, are more likely to gain damage through HP and attack rather than just straight attack. And they're the type of things we're playing around with, sort of multipliers. But HP, how much health you've got, attack, how much damage you do, and defense mitigates damage coming into you. So these are all kind of like pretty obvious. Crit rate and crit damage are pretty obvious as well. You can get up to 100% crit rate to be crit capped. And then crit damage will be a multiplier on top of your crit rate. So all of those make sense. Speed determines how fast your turn meter will fill up in battle. You can get things like increased speed buffs, which will improve that once you're in the fight. And again, that's pretty obvious if you've played this style of game before. It's a turn-based game. You've then got resistance and accuracy. So yeah, so accuracy is going to increase the chance of you placing a strong hit on the enemy. And resistance will reduce the amount of critical damage that you receive from a critical hit. So both of these stats have got like a dual purpose. So they're never redundant in a build if you're just kind of like gaining additional stats, or if you've got people boosting things like your accuracy and resistance. And then...
All right. I'll just stop there very briefly. Well, hopefully it's brief. So I think that's really cool to switch up what accuracy and resistance actually do. Accuracy means that you have a better chance of doing a strong hit, so doing more damage. So that's outside of critically hitting. And then resistance being able to mitigate how much crit damage is done against you. So even if they do crit, if you've got high resistance, it's a bit like resilience in PvP in World of Warcraft. If anyone's familiar with the resilience stat, when they introduced that, I think it was during Wrath of the Lich King, potentially, they introduced resilience as a PvP stat. And that basically reduces the critical hit damage against you from enemies, from other players. The other thing I wanted to point out very quickly on this is it's interesting that they're going with the crit rate, crit damage thing. It's probably the same in most gacha games, if not all gacha games and Hero Collector games. It would have been cool to see a move away from that, where you did not get a crit rate stat, but if you happened to crit against an enemy, it was a good thing and it was a surprise, a bit more like D&D. That's just something I would have liked to have seen, is not being able to get to a crit cap, so you're 100% critting against a weak or neutral enemy, but actually having crit rate built in behind the scenes, where certain skill ups and buffs could increase your chance to critically hit against an enemy, but not being able to get 100% crit. Just having crit as, oh, I crit, that's cool. I think that would be cool. Like in D&D, when you roll a critical threat or critical hit with most of the time it's a natural 20, right, on the dice, and you critically hit the enemy and you do extra damage against them. Just my thoughts around crit. It would be really cool to see that take on it.
Finally, initiative here. Initiative is a way to boost your speed of getting your ultimate ability. So it boosts your divinity fill rate.
Right.
So in a similar way to speed boost your turn meter tick, initiative will boost your divinity meter tick. So per turn, you will gain divinity through your initiative.
Yeah.
But then also your initiative will be a multiplier on your ability to gain your ult. So here where we gain 200 divinity whenever an enemy is defeated, if I boost my initiative, I will actually get a multiplier on this number, so I can make this number greater as well.
Faster.
So if you're really trying to push somebody's ultimate in a build, you could go super high initiative and get the ult really fast. And there will be other ways to boost things like initial ultimate ability. Things like weapons will have passives on them, will help you do that, and they'll also have stats to help you build these out.
That's really cool.
Hopefully that gives a pretty decent overview of stats. Let's talk about buffs and debuffs and disables.
All right.
So let's talk about the different status effects then. We're going to run the way through this. Henry's pulled this together for us because it's not in game just yet as a screen, but we've got some pretty obvious stuff. So things like accuracy up, accuracy down. Pretty obvious. It's just going to boost your accuracy stat. There are 3 different ranks to both of those. We have got, I guess I'll go down buffs first. We've got attack up, increases your attack in battle. Barrier, absorbs incoming damage equal to the strength of the barrier before depleting HP. So it's basically going to be like a shield effect. Defense up increases our defense. Immortal, HP cannot be decreased below 1.
Right.
And then once it triggers, you'll lose this effect. Or you'll lose a stack of this effect. Initiative up increases our initiative stats, so that's our ability to gain ults, meter or divinity. Intercept redirects an attack to the hero that placed intercept. And again, once it triggers, the duration is reduced. So you can basically push attacks away from you. Mend reduces bleed stacks by 1 and heal 10% max HP at the start of a turn. Phoenix instantly revive upon death with 100% turn meter and HP.
What?
Pretty damn insane, actually. That one might need looking at. Protect. Ally who placed this buff takes damage for someone instead. So basically protecting one of your teammates. Radiance reduces and reflects a percentage of attack damage received. Reflect the next non-resisted debuff received. So you're pushing debuffs back at someone. Resistance up just increases your resistance stat. Retaliate, counterattack enemy attackers when hit.
Nice.
Sharpen increases your crit damage stat and your strong hit damage. Shield absorbs incoming damage equal to the strength of the shield before depleting. Shields cannot stack or be increased. So we've got speed up, which is pretty obvious. Stalwart, immune to disables. So duration is reduced when receiving a disable. So let's say someone tries to put a sleep on you or something, it will just remove a stack of Stalwart from you. Banish, you cannot be targeted. And then Ward.
He didn't cover the other part of Stalwart there, where it said that, what was it? Let's go back a little bit. It said something really interesting at the Stalwart. Removes a disable on initial placement. So if someone has a disable on them and they get Stalwart placed on them, it removes that disable. He didn't say it, but that's really good.
Something, it will just remove a stack of Stalwart from you. Banish, you cannot be targeted. And then Ward, immune to attack damage. Duration reduced,
but not immune to
triggered.
Debuffs.
Okay, so pretty strong ones in there.
Or disables.
We've then got the debuffs. So accuracy down is pretty obvious.
Less accuracy.
Acid. So it disables armor sets.
Armor set bonuses.
And deals 5% max HP damage at the start of a turn. Deals double damage to shields and barriers.
Acid's strong.
So basically this is a way to disable sets that are annoying or basically like locking you out or something. Ether Burn. Increases the target's chance to weak hit and reduces divinity by a percentage depending on the level.
Oh, that's cool.
On all heroes of the team. Attack down, pretty obvious, reduces their attack. Banish. This one's not on many heroes because it's crazy. Enemies that die with this debuff or is placed before death cannot be revived whilst this is on. When a revive occurs, the duration of this debuff is reduced. So basically somebody's dead on the floor. If they're banished, then if you try and revive them, what it's going to do is tick down a stack of banish before you're then able to revive them. Blaze. This is basically a burn effect, so deals damage equal to enemy max HP on all heroes of the team. Bleed. This is a stackable thing, so damages an enemy for 1% of their max HP each turn, stacks up to 10.
Right.
Block revive. Enemies that die with this cannot be revived. Blunt reduces the strong hit and critical damage of an enemy. Charm takes the next attack for the enemy that placed this debuff. And then the duration reduces when it's at...
What does that mean? Takes the next attack for the enemy that places this debuff. Duration reduces. What do you mean takes the next attack? Ah. So if someone has a charm on them, whoever debuffed that charm onto the target, that target has a turn and attacks their own team. Is that right? Do you have control over the attack? Is it a basic attack? I'm not quite sure what that actually means. The wording on that is a little off. The way I see it is the target with charm on them will attack on behalf of the enemy that placed the debuff on them. So you charm someone, they attack for you when it's your turn. But that doesn't make sense because you take control away from yourself to attack. Yeah, I'm not clear on that one.
Actually triggered. Corrupt, the unit that places this debuff steals any buffs received. Duration reduced when it's triggered. Cursed, reducing incoming healing and shield stroke barrier. So you're just basically trying to lock out the enemy's healing and stuff. Defense down just reduces the enemy's defense. Drain, so the attackers deal increased damage and heal for some of the damage that they do. There's a life steal, but with a damage buff as well.
Drain's
Hex,
good.
Oh, I've got a type on this page here for Hex. Hex is actually meant to be allies also take 5, 10, or 15% of damage received. This is halved for AoE damage. Okay, initiative down, decreases initiative stats. Yep. We've then got lock core abilities. So basically your core's not going to be able to be used. Lock passive abilities.
Lock ultimate
abilities. All pretty obvious, but very, very damaging. Bear in mind, you're building these things up. We've got resistance down, decreases resistance. Speed down, decreases speed. Terrify increases your divinity cost by 50%. And then vulnerable increases damage dealt by debuffs by 20, 40, and 60%. Okay, let's just have a look at disables then to finish this off. Do any not make sense, I guess, for what we're trying to do with the game? Or is there any way you're like, damn, that sounds really interesting? Okay, confuse. So these are disables. Basically, it's a way.
Just before he goes into the disables, yes, one of them was confusing, charm. And yes, it's very interesting to see the 3 that the starter heroes have. So if I remember rightly, Guan Yu does acid, Lady Shock does bleed, and Ramses does the other one that was on there. What is it? Curse. Is it Curse? Yeah, I think it's Curse. So yeah, it's those 3. And of those, Acid and Curse seem pretty strong. I think Acid seems like the strongest one. Because it disables armor. It depends. I mean, disables armor sets it seems like more of a PvP thing, doesn't it? Because if you're going up against mobs, they don't actually have armor sets. Unless it's baked into them that they can use armor set bonuses of some sort. But I don't think that's the case. But it deals double to shield and barrier, which is pretty good. Yeah, so Bleed can stack, though. Bleed can stack. That's why I really like it. I mean, that's not why I like it, but I really just like the idea of bleeds. I think I'm still going to stick with Lady Shock as my starter champion just to test her out. But it's really cool to see what they actually do. And the Curse one, no, Drain. Sorry, it wasn't Curse. It was Drain, wasn't it? Let me just skip back very quickly if I can. I want to see what Drain says. Oh, here it is. Drain. Attackers deal increased damage and healing for a % of the damage inflicted. So when they have Drain on them, your damage is increased and you get a little heal. So it is their life that's being sucked away, as I surmised in my video where I mentioned the starter champions, and I talked very briefly about what I thought Acid, Drain, and Bleed did, because that's the 3 debuffs that the starter champions can place. Drain was very similar to what this actually is, that you deal extra damage, or you deal... Actually, I didn't think that you'd deal increased damage. I thought you'd do some damage, and from that damage, a percentage of healing would return to you from their HP. That was one of my theories, but dealing increased damage to them, so attackers deal increased damage and heal for a percentage of the damage inflicted. So you're not just damaging them, you're doing increased damage. So Drain sounds pretty good. Maybe I need to go for it's Ramses, isn't it? Who's the third starter champion? Maybe I need to go for Ramses. Maybe. I don't know. Should I change my mind? All right, let's go to the disables and continue on where we were up to.
Really don't not make sense, I guess, for what we're trying to do with the game? Or is there any way you're like, damn, that sounds really interesting?
I like where they're on track with
okay, them. Confuse. So these are disables. Basically, it's a way of locking out enemies
CC.
Or making them less effective than they should be. So confuse. This unit attacks a random ally with its basic ability, but doing reduced damage. Yep. So if you confuse a bunch of the enemies, they're going to attack their own team.
That's funny.
Despair. Skips the next turn. Cannot receive positive buffs or effects. Duration is reduced when an attempt to put a buff or something on.
So you could force it to.
Let's say you've got 2 stacks of despair. You could have someone who does 3 buffs for your team. The third buff would get on, but the duration would be reduced by the first 2 buffs. Freeze. Skips next turn. Incoming turn meter fill effects are also reduced. Morph. Increases hero's battle attack stat by 20, 40, or 60%.
What does that mean?
Petrify skips the next turn.
What does increases hero battle attack stat? How is that a CC? Oh, they'll need to explain that. I don't understand that.
Divinity effects are reduced.
Yep.
Sleep skips the next turn. Incoming damage from attacks is increased, and the duration reduces when you're attacked.
Well, it doesn't wake you up immediately.
Stun just skips the next turn, and taunt attacks the unit that placed this disable with a basic ability but doing reduced damage. That is going to be it for the different status effects we've got in. There will be other cool stuff on weapon passives and that type of thing. So there's going to be other things to learn as we get into the alpha experience and beyond. But yeah, that's going to be it for today.
Doesn't that background look cool? I wanted to say this at the beginning, but he was talking and I didn't want to talk over him. But doesn't that background look awesome? I really like this background. I think I'm going to take this background and use it. Yeah, so there we have it. That is the stats, breakdown of the stats. We have a lot of clarity around the difference between speed and initiative now. More clarity around that. They are going to balance the ultimate the divinity climb. So how much divinity you get and how much divinity is required and how much divinity you start with and how that grows and changes. So how often you get your ultimate. That's obviously going to be something that they're going to keep a close eye on in terms of balancing. Really cool to see the buffs, the debuffs, and the disables. That taunt disable sounds pretty good because it's basically forcing someone to attack you. So if you're a defense champ and you can place a taunt, you're basically locking that person out from doing anything, which is a much better taunt than what Raid uses, which is you have to attack the target if you use an attack skill. By the way, if you're a support champion and you don't need to attack somebody, you're fine. So that's a really good play on taunt. I don't understand what was. I can't even remember what that disable was that I was confused about, but morph, was it? I think it was something like that. Where it increases your hero attack stat by such and such %. I don't know what that means. So yeah, there we have it. That is the stats and the buffs, debuffs, and disables, the improvements and whatever for your champions. It's going to be really cool to test these out to see who does what, who can place what, and what that actually does in terms of affecting gameplay and how you get through parts of the game, especially the Cavern, which is the alpha. So look forward to the alpha because it's coming soon. Thank you for watching, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.